All right, today we're going to pop the hood on Bitcoin. Seriously, let's forget the price charts, forget the headlines for a bit. We're going straight to the engine room to really understand the brilliant and, surprisingly simple technology that makes this whole thing work. So here's our game plan. First up, we'll dig into why anyone is even thinking about new kinds of money. Then, we'll get into the real nuts and bolts of Bitcoin, how it actually runs under the hood. After that, we'll stack it up against the money we use every day, and we'll wrap up with the big ideas you'll want to remember.
And that leads us right into our first big question. Before we can understand why we might need a new kind of money, we have to ask ourselves a more basic question. What actually makes for good money to begin with?
This quote just nails it. The technical rules of Bitcoin, they're not really up for debate, they're just code. The real argument, the thing we humans love to do, is fight over what it all means for our money and our future. For pretty much all of human history, the big challenge has been finding one thing that checks all these boxes. I mean, think about it. Good money needs to be scarce, right? So its value doesn't just get washed away. It has to be divisible, so you can buy a coffee or a house. You got to be able to easily tell if it's the real deal, move it around without a fuss, and be sure it won't just, rot away.
And this brings us to this really important difference between what we call hard and easy money. Hard money, like gold, is, well, it's hard to make more of. The amount that already exists is way bigger than what can be newly mined each year. But easy money, like the dollars and euros we use, can be created with just a few keystrokes. Its supply can be expanded almost without limit, which pretty much guarantees it loses value over time. And we have a name for that: inflation.
And that easy money creates this specific and kind of unfair problem. It's called the Cantillon effect. So when new money gets printed, it doesn't just appear in everyone's bank account. No, it enters the system through governments and big banks first. They get to spend it while prices are still low. But as that new money works its way through the economy, it drives up prices for everybody else. It's a system that just naturally benefits those closest to the money printer and hurts the average person's saving. And this is not just some economic theory, okay? This is real data. The World Bank looked at the money supply in 167 countries over more than 50 years. And you know what they found? The average annual increase was over 32%. That is a massive rate of currency creation, and it's the perfect illustration of what the problem with easy money looks like in the real world.
So, keeping those problems in mind, let's finally dive in and see how Bitcoin's technology was engineered to be a direct solution. It's time to get under the hood and look at the actual machinery built to fix the problems of centralization and easy money.
So the heart of Bitcoin is something called the blockchain, and honestly, the best way to picture it is just as a public notebook. A notebook that's shared and copied across thousands of computers all over the planet. Anyone can look at it, but not a single person can go back and change what's already been written. This is huge because it solves the problem of needing a middleman, like a bank, to keep track of everything.
But you're probably wondering, how do you keep that notebook secure? Well, that's where something called a hash comes in. A hash is like a unique digital fingerprint for data. Think of it like a tamper-proof wax seal on each page or block of that notebook. If you try to change even a single comma on a past page, the seal breaks. The hash changes completely, and the entire network immediately knows that something's wrong.
So this is how it all works step by step. You send some Bitcoin and it goes into a public waiting room. Then these powerful computers called miners grab a bunch of these transactions and start competing to solve a really, really hard math puzzle. This whole race is called proof of work, because to win, you have to prove you spent real-world computer power and electricity. The winner gets the right to add the next page to our public notebook, and for their effort, they're rewarded with brand new Bitcoin. That whole process is what keeps the network secure.
And right here, this is the most important part, the system's crucial balance of power. The miners, they're like the workers who propose the next block of transactions. But, and this is key, they are not in charge. The real bosses are the nodes. These are just thousands of regular computers all around the world running the Bitcoin software. They're the referees. Every node has a full copy of the rulebook, and they check every new block to make sure the miners are playing fair. If a miner tries to cheat, the nodes just reject their block. End of story. Okay, so we get the tech now. Let's circle back to where we started. Do all these technical features, the blockchain, the proof of work, the nodes, actually add up to a new kind of hard money?
Just look at how they stack up side by side. Bitcoin basically takes the single best feature of gold, its scarcity, and makes it absolute, guaranteed by math. But then it combines that with the best feature of our normal currencies, the fact that it's digital and easy to send. You can move it anywhere on Earth in minutes, no permission needed. It's incredibly divisible, you can verify it with math, and no single person or group is in control.
This chart really shows you the killer difference in action. Bitcoin's inflation rate isn't just low, it's perfectly predictable. It's hard-coded to decrease over time until it finally hits zero. Now compare that to the completely unpredictable and frankly wild average for government money. When it comes to a supply you can count on, it's not even a contest. And this leads to a really deep psychological shift. Think about it. If your money is always losing value, you're basically forced to spend it or gamble with it just to keep up. But what if you had money that held its value, or even went up? It changes your whole mindset. Suddenly, you're incentivized to save, to plan for the long term, to build for your future. This shift toward future planning is what people call having a lower time preference.
All right, we have covered a ton of ground here, so let's bring it all home and boil it down to the most important takeaways.
In the end, it all comes full circle. We started with the problem, right? The issue of easy money and the unfairness it creates. Bitcoin's technology, the public blockchain, the energy behind proof of work, all of it governed by that beautiful balance of power between miners and nodes, it's all a direct answer to that problem. It was built from the ground up, with one goal in mind, to create true, absolute scarcity in a digital world.
And so that leaves us with the million-dollar question, or I guess the 21 million Bitcoin question. The technology is clearly designed to work like hard, sound money. But whether it can actually become that on a global scale, or if it'll just be a fascinating chapter in the history of technology, well, that's the story that's still being written.